besties, it's Destiny. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. So of course, for the month of June, I had a very good reading month. I read a total of 23 whopping books. I don't think the previous month I either had 23, so I don't think I've topped my monthly, like how many books I can read in a month, but I have read a lot of books this month. Had a very good reading month. I had a couple of arcs that I also read that published in, I think, May or June, so I'll let you know my thoughts on that. And then I'll also have a couple of audiobook recommendations as well if you're looking for any audiobook recommendations. So yeah, let's get into these 23 books. So first, before we get started, I'm actually going to go through all of the books that were on my June TBR that I actually did not get to because I am a huge mood reader. Sometimes I don't stick to my TBR, but I think a lot of people don't ever stick to their TBR because there's new books coming out. There's hype on Book Talk, BookTube of a new book, and you really want to go ahead and read it. So a lot of that happened this month as well. But there were two books in particular that I did not finish, but I will be finishing in the month of July. So the first book that I did not finish, but I am going to finish in the month of July, is Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Sabrina. I've talked about this in my previous June TBR video, so you can go and watch what my synopsis on what this book is particularly about. But I will say for Lore of the Wild, I'm about halfway through the book, so I didn't really, from the last time I've told you guys about this book, I haven't progressed much. The only reason why I'm not progressing so much with this book, I'm not gonna say it's a DNF, because this is a YA book. It's not leaning to YA, it's a YA fantasy or romantasy. The two love interests from this book, they are moving entirely way too fast. It's like, hold up, I'm kind of losing the plot a little bit, but right now I'm probably going to project this being a 3-star read. I do have the arc that I need to get started in a couple of days, so I'm actually going to finish this probably today, and I have to get started on Lore of the Tides, which is book 2 that releases on either July the 8th or the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll put it below. I think this is something for like a younger adult that may, because I just can't relate with it, just being honest. But this is Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Sabrina. So the next book that I did not finish in the month of June as planned is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. I am actually on chapter 18, page 160, and so I'm about this much done, almost half of the book. This book is phenomenal. I mean, I already project that this is going to be a 5-star read. The only reason that I put this book down was because I needed to get through some of my other arcs that I needed to finalize and get read by a certain date. So I did put this one down. This released on June the 10th. It's absolutely phenomenal. I see this either being a movie or a TV series because it is that good, y'all. Like, I kid y'all not, this is great. I also am listening to this on audiobook, and the audiobook is great. So if you're looking for a really good audiobook recommendation, I highly recommend King of Ashes as a great audiobook. I'm reading and listening to it at the same time, so of course doing that at the same time kind of poses a little bit of issues because I have to be like physically sitting down to be able to read the book. But yes, but I am going to get to it, and I'm really excited to finish this out. I already know that it's going to be a 5-star read. So now we're going to get into our fantasy category of books that I've read for the month of June. The first book that I finished in the fantasy category is Mirror Girls by Kelly McWilliams. This book is absolutely phenomenal. This was a 5-star read. This is a YA kind of literary fiction, but it does have some magical realism in it, so I guess you could call it fantasy if you want to. This book was absolutely phenomenal. So let me give you a brief synopsis of Mirror Girls. Mirror Girls is following 2 black twins. They were separated at birth. One is white passing and went to go live with the white half of the family. The darker skin tone child went to go live with the black family. The white passing twin does not even know that she's actually black. They end up coming back to try to find each other. The white passing child is actually cursed, and so when she finds out that she is actually black, the curse kind of kicks in, if you will. This was absolutely phenomenal. It's dual POV from both sisters' point of view. I absolutely love both sisters. It was just the most heartwarming book. Even though this is YA, I was like, I would give this to a lot of adults to read. The magical realism that was incorporated into the book was very phenomenal, so I really did enjoy this. So please go out and read Mirror Girls, 5-star read for sure. The second fantasy book that I did read for the month of June is Blood at the Root by Ladarian Williams. This was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely adored this. A lot of people kind of compared this book to be like Black Hogwarts. I didn't get that, and that's okay. But I guess they needed a comparison for that. This book, I think, is a standout book on its own. I love seeing black people who look like me in a fantasy book, who get the same hype as like Harry Potter. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is either, if I'm not mistaken, I think Blood at the Root is possibly going to be adapted into a TV series or a movie, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to definitely double check. Blood at the Root, I've talked about what this book is about in my June TBR video, so definitely go watch that. This was a 5-star read. The audiobook, better than reading the book. Again, the audiobook was phenomenal. This was probably my favorite fantasy audiobook that I've actually ever listened to, if I'm not mistaken. This was absolutely phenomenal. I love the world building. It was slow in the beginning. I am going to be honest about that. So in the beginning, it's very slow. Book 2 will be released in July. I do have the arc for book 2. I'm about to start that one as well. And the crazy thing is, I'm really excited about this book because today I'm actually leaving to go to the Essence Festival in New Orleans that is every year. Ladarian Williams is going to be there for a panel. I am taking this book, so hopefully I get to get this book signed by Ladarian Williams. Hopefully I get a picture with Ladarian. So I'm totally geeking out over meeting Ladarian Williams after reading this book, and then also being able to go ahead and jump into the arc before I get there. But yes, this is a great book and definitely audiobook approved. So now let's get into all of the romance books that I read for the month of June. I'm probably gonna go ahead and say that romance and my thriller books were about split even for the month of June, if I'm not mistaken. I only read 2. Of course, you saw that I only read about 2 fantasy books. So let's get into all of the romance books that I read for the month of June. First romance book that I actually reread for the month of June is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is actually book 2 in the Rose Hill series. Wild Love is book 1. I absolutely loved book 1. It was a 5-star read. I love Ford Grant. It was a billionaire small town romance. It was a very great book. The spice on that one was probably like a 3 or 4. This, on the other hand, the first time I read it, I actually DNF'd this book, but I really want to read book 3, which I already have the copy of book 3 that I think was released probably a month or so ago by Elsie Silver. So I was like, let me get through this one. Let me give it more of a chance. So I reread it and I rated it 3 stars. However, I will say it was enjoyable. Will I reread it again or recommend it? Maybe. I'll probably say this is probably going to be my least favorite in this series because, again, the reason why I DNF'd it was because the two love interests in here, they were boring to me. And it's based on Wes, which is the sister of, I think, is it Rosie? I can't remember. Is it Rosalie? Rosalind? I can't remember. She's the main character in Wild Love Book 1. And so it's about her brother. He is divorced with 2 children. The children I absolutely adored. I probably gave the 3 stars based on the kids, because he has a girl and a boy in this, and they are just the cutest little kids. So I really did enjoy the kids in this story. The main female character, she just really got on my nerves. And I mean, I get she's a pop star, and so she's coming to work with the person in book 1 to basically just get away and then work on her music. And it was just boring to me. Like, I just didn't like their story. But anyways, I could go on a tangent about that forever. But yeah, that's Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So the next book that I did finish in the month of June was All I've Wanted, All I've Needed by A.E. Valdez. This is like a 5 or 6 book series. This is book 1 in the series. I absolutely adore this book. This is the book about Harlow. She's dating a MLB, I think he's in the MLB, or it's either minor leagues or major league baseball. I know it is baseball. That she's dating him. He is wanting to marry her, and she's like, hold on, I don't think our relationship is even there yet. So they do break up. She has the opportunity to move across the country. I think it was to Seattle, to become like a yoga instructor. And she kind of starts her own business, kind of gets into photography, and she ends up with meeting this tattoo artist. His name is Asen, and he has his own business, is doing his own thing. She's kind of struggling with the ex kind of trying to come back, and it's just a lot of back and forth. The angst between Harlow and Asen is just amazing. I absolutely love this book. I cannot wait to read the rest of the book in this series and try to figure out about the other friend groups, because I think the rest of the series is about the other friend groups, and I think they kind of mention Asen and Harlow. This was a 5-star read. I highly recommend it. This is like a cute, summer, fun, fluffy read for me, and this was like a great break from like all of the thrillers that I always read, and so I'm very happy that I picked this book up. So the next book that I read was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This book, I did receive it from Book of the Month. I think this came out back in February of this year. There was a lot of hype around this book. So I've never read a B.K. Borison book, and the reason why I wanted to kind of go after this book was because it was highly marketed that this was giving Sleepless in Seattle vibes.
Sleepless in Seattle.
And that is literally one of my favorite movies of all time. I love watching that mainly around Christmas time, but if I'm feeling bad, I am going to go and watch Sleepless in Seattle. So this book actually sold me on that alone. So of course, if you're marketing it that way and I'm gonna read it, I am going to want Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And I should not have went into that with that thought, but I did, and here we are. So I will say this is a 3.5-star read. It was very enjoyable between the two main characters. I think this is going to end up being a 3-book series. I think one is coming out later this year, the other one being released I think next February in 26, if I'm not mistaken. Did it give Sleepless in Seattle vibe? Kinda. And the only reason why they said Sleepless in Seattle, like the book was based in Maryland. No Seattle, but it was based at a radio station. I will say the way to read this book is the audiobook. The audiobook is what brought me into this story and into this world. I absolutely love the daughter in this. I highly recommend it. Even though I gave it a 3.5, the only reason why I gave it a 3.5 stars because it did not give me the full experience that I was expecting. But then again, that is very subjective. Someone else may say, yes, I get Sleepless in Seattle from this because I watched that movie all the time and multiple times a year, kinda. I get why they would market it that way, but it was an enjoyable book and an enjoyable story. I am going to read the rest of the series because I do want to see what's going to happen in the book. So yes, it was not boring at all. The audiobook is definitely how you want to consume this because it does have some of like a, not podcast feel, but the radio feel, and it has like some sound effects. And for me, that brings me into the story. But definitely, this is audiobook approved. Highly recommend. I would probably say the audiobook along would, I would say, bring it up to a 4 or 5 star read for me. But the storyline, I would say, is a 3.5. But that's First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. So the next book that I read, and I'm so excited that I actually, as soon as it came in the house, as soon as I opened the package from Amazon, I was like, I absolutely have to get my hands on this book. It's absolutely phenomenal. So this is Hear My Heart by Tay Monet. This is actually my first Tay Monet book. This is a Black author, romance author. This book is absolutely phenomenal. The reason why I love this book is, look at the cover. Like, this book is absolutely stunning. And she even paid close detail to images inside the book. Like, who does that? Like, this is phenomenal. Like, this is chapter 1, how it opens up. So I really did enjoy this. Let's get into the book. So in Hear My Heart, we are following Nakaira. She's hearing impaired, and I love the representation. She is engaged to be married to a millionaire guy. He's in the family business. I forgot what the family business is, but that's not important. He's in the family business. They are set to be married, I think, within like a month of this story starting out. And early on in the book, tragedy hits. He has an accident where he is placed into a coma. So it was really tragic. He told her he was going to the airport for a business trip, but he actually had his accident not at the airport or going to the airport. He was around town. So he was basically not where he was supposed to be. Read the book for the rest of that story. Nakaira is not close with her family at all. She has like one cousin, Rome, who is her fiance. He is pretty much the worst of the worst. He does anything his parents says. His parents are pretty much running their relationship. She is an illustrator and like make comments and things like that. So very talented. I love reading about like her storyline and like her job in here. So that was very interesting. So the brother comes into play, and I don't think she's ever met the brother. So she finally gets a chance to meet the brother. He comes in and she says, well, don't get a hotel room, just come stay at the house, because Rome has been in like a coma for like weeks on end. So we don't know that we're going to make it to this wedding because he's not waking up. He's going through a lot of medical things, and his health is really declining, and we don't think that he's going to get out of this coma at all. I will say you got to read the rest of the book to see where it goes. I'm not even going to tell you who this is on the cover, but it was absolutely amazing. The spice in this is about a 4.5, probably a 5. The spice is very good. This was a very well-written, beautiful story. If you don't like the cheating trope, then you're probably not going to enjoy this per se. But this was a very beautiful book. I will probably reread this in the fall because obviously this gave all of the fall vibes. I enjoyed this book so much that Tay Monet has a book box that has released, I think, on the 1st. And so I did purchase. It has like the sprayed edges, and she's giving like, I think it's like an erotic scene from here, and it's going to be included with the book and stuff. So it's just gonna be like a really good gift to myself. And I'm really, really excited. I highly recommend this book. Go out and read Hear My Heart by Tay Monet. So the next 3 books that I read is actually a series. I read these 3 books in 3 days, one each day. I literally ran through this entire series. It was absolutely phenomenal. Book 1 is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Do you need to read all 3 of these books? These are standalones. However, I recommend you read them in the order of Part of Your World first, Yours Truly second, and Just for the Summer is book 3. And why I say that is because there are Easter eggs in every single book. So there were Easter eggs that's in book 2 that came from book 1, and I was like, oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. Oh, okay. So now you're being caught up on like what's going on in the previous books because they are kind of happening in close proximity in terms of like time. Part of Your World is book 1, and in book 1 we are following Daniel and Alexis. They meet by chance where Alexis has an accident and Daniel has to come pull her out of a ditch. She ends up in this small town. All 3 series are based in Minnesota. I think Minneapolis, St. Paul, I think is kind of the city that it's set in, if I'm not mistaken. But I do know it's Minnesota. I now want to go visit Minnesota. For sure. Book 1, we're following Daniel, and they have a one-night stand. If you don't like the one-night stand trope, you may not like this. Alexis and Daniel are very complex. Daniel falls first. He falls head first in love with Alexis. Alexis, however, pissed me off. It was a lot of self-sabotage, but it's also, there were trauma responses because she is technically still trying to get out of a relationship and not wanting to dive head first into another one. So that is understandable. And the person who she was in a relationship with, they actually have a house together. So she's trying to figure that situation out. She's a nurse. Everybody's a nurse in all 3 books, and so I did love that. She is kind of struggling with Daniel being like 10 years younger than her. However, he's very mature for his age, and the miscommunication trope is something that I'm starting to learn that I really, really don't like, and it pisses me off to the max, dealing with miscommunication. And Alexis, I think she was just really conflicted with, does she want to kind of be back with her ex? And she's really turned off for the fact that Daniel is 10 years younger, even though like he has it together. I don't know. She made me mad throughout the book, and I did go in and I annotated a lot. I didn't finish annotating, but I need to go back and finish annotating. But there were a lot of things that I adored in this book. One line in this book that is absolutely my favorite line of all time, and I literally hope I find it. My favorite line from the book is "Grace costs you nothing," and I literally put "Grace costs you nothing" in all caps, y'all. This was a 4-star read for me. I would probably read this again because I literally flew through this book in less than 12 hours. So the second book in this series is Yours Truly. I highly recommend that you read Part of Your World first and you read Yours Truly second. So in Yours Truly, we're following Brianna and Jake. These are the 2 love interests here. And they are 2 nurses, or are they doctors? They're doctors, excuse me. They're doctors. So I keep saying nurses. They're not nurses. They're doctors, y'all. Jacob is a new doctor to the hospital. They call him Dr. Death because I think like his first week, I think like 5 or 6 patients died within his first week. So they have like this running joke with the nurses that he's Dr. Death. Brianna is actually the best friend of Alexis in book 1 of Part of Your World. We do get Brianna's story. Brianna is newly divorced. She doesn't want another relationship, rightfully so. She was cheated on. She's going through some things. And so I absolutely love Brianna. Brianna is my favorite character in the entire series. This was actually my favorite of the entire series. So Brianna is trying to go out for a position of chief. She finds out that the current chief may be retiring. The chief kind of tells her to make it even. I'm not going to retire yet. I'm going to wait till Jacob kind of learns his footing to see if you can have some competition, because he knows that if she applies for it, everybody will vote for her and she'll get the position. So he wants Brianna to have competition. Like, what in the workplace trauma effed upness is that? Like, you don't want to quit your job because, anyways, I could go on a whole tangent for that. But so she instantly thinks that Jacob is in cahoots with the current chief, and so she absolutely hates him. She's being mean to him. She's also has to become a caretaker for her brother, who is going through some kidney failure and who's on dialysis, and he's just really struggling, and she's just having to be a full-time doctor, a caretaker, and then also trying to figure out getting out of a marriage. So she has her own struggles. Jacob, on the other hand, he has high anxiety. I love the mental health representation there. And so he starts sending her letters of apologizing for things, and it's just a beautiful love story that's amazing. Brianna is funny as hell. Like, she's really funny and part of your world when you first become introduced to her, but in book 2, like, I absolutely love her. Like, I could reread this over and over again. I absolutely love Brianna, but this was a 5-star read for me. I will reread it. I will highly recommend it. Book 3 is just for the summer. I think this was released last summer. So I've actually had all 3 of these books for quite some time, and I was like, I really need to get through this for the summer. So I was like, let me go ahead and jump through that. So I love this for myself, that I actually read all 3 books literally in a 3-day, I think a Friday, Saturday, and like this past Sunday, I literally just finished this one up. So in this book, we're following Emma and Justin's story. They have this kind of curse going on that after they date someone, the next person, when they break up with that person, that next person ends up, like, they find their husband or wife or their soulmate, essentially. She found Justin on a Reddit post, so they ended up kind of talking back and forth about this curse. People want to find out who Justin is because they want to date him, so that when they break up with him, they find their forever. Essentially, they decide to get together and date each other so they can break up with each other, because they both have this curse on them that they think a lot of things just kind of just spiral, family things. I love how she tied these 2 people up, because I was like, who are these 2 people? And I love how she tied their story into the other 2 books. Again, the Easter eggs are to die for in this book. So she did a wonderful job, like dropping the separating the stories, but dropping Easter eggs from all 3 books. We'll see all the characters from the other 2 books in here, and just the story just blossoms very beautifully. So I really did enjoy this book. This was a 3-star read. This was actually my least favorite because I wasn't invested in Emma or Justin so much. This was more of the younger of the 2 couples. The other 2 in the last 2 books I can relate to, because they were like closer to my age, but these 2 were younger, a little bit more naive, and I could relate, but I just wasn't invested into their love story as I thought. However, it was interesting story. I flew through it, and it was a 3-star read for me. I would say it's a 3.5 star read. Would I reread it again? Yes, probably. This is really good summer book as well. The whole series, just read it for the summer. You will enjoy it. I do love the real world, like, application things going on, like being raised in foster care and not knowing your family and have that found family. I love that in books, and I think like the mental health representation in this book and in the last book, I love how she kind of incorporated those things in here. and shows that people can still be successful and have like these crazy family dynamics and mental health things going on, because that's real life. So I really do love that. I'm actually new to Abby Jimenez after reading these 3 books, but I do want to read all of her other books. And so I'm really excited to read I think the new book that she came out with maybe a month or 2 ago. I'm really excited to kind of jump into that one as well. But yeah, but that's Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. The next book, I don't even know if you would call this romance, but this is Daisy Hate by Jessa Hastings. This is book 2 in the Magnolia Parks universe. I'm really excited to say that I actually enjoyed this. I actually enjoyed this one a little bit less than Magnolia Parks. I actually like Magnolia. She does get on my nerves sometimes, but I will say that this is audiobook approved. I really did enjoy it. I love the English and British accent. Absolutely adore that. And so I did get the full experience with that. If you don't like the Brit accents, you will not enjoy the book at all. Or you won't enjoy the audiobook. I absolutely love like how she writes footnotes at the bottom of the pages to kind of fully explain certain concepts throughout the book. So I did give this one a 4-star, if I'm not mistaken. I think a 3.5 or a 4-star. Magnolia Parks was a 5-star. I am going to continue. I do have the full series already, so I am going to continue it. So now let's get into all of the thrillers that I read for the month. So the first thriller that I read for the month of June was She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. This was a 5-star read. This is audiobook approved. It was phenomenal of the audiobook. The narrators did a phenomenal job. I highly recommend this book. This was a fun time. I ate this book up, and this is a book that had me screaming like, what the F? Like, what? I love it when I can't guess what's good. If I can't guess the plot twist, baby, you got me as a forever reader. And Mary, girl, you got me, because I was not expecting the end, and then she flipped more plot twists, because I was like, oh, I think it's this and this, and oh my, wait, what's happening over here? It was so much going on in this book. Like, it's not even a huge book, but this was absolutely phenomenal. So in this book, we're following Megan. She's a recently divorced full-time nurse and mom of a teenage daughter who is draining to say the least. We follow her story. She goes to work and she finds this person in a coma named Caitlin, and we're trying to figure out, was Caitlin pushed off of a bridge, or was someone after her, or did she jump? And we're just trying to figure out the story of this comatose Caitlin. And the story around Caitlin and Megan and how their lives are intertwined, mind-boggling, mind-blowing. I'm not even going to go any further with the storyline and trying to give you more of a synopsis. Go read the book. It's phenomenal. You will not regret it, I promise you. So the next thriller is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Y'all, when I say this book had me hooked, the audiobook, phenomenal. Please go and read it. I actually read it and listened to the audiobook at the same time, and this was actually a phenomenal story. This was a 5-star read. I read this book in one sitting, under 12 hours. I think I stayed up trying to get through this book. But yes, this is a one-sitting thriller for me. So I'm really excited to say that I highly enjoyed it. Of course, I absolutely love Riley Sager. I will say Riley Sager sometimes is like Frida McFadden for me, can be a little bit hit and miss, but this was a hit for sure. So in this book, we're following Kit. She is basically like a nurse's aide, like a home health aide essentially. She is being sent to help Lenore Hope at her home on top of this huge cliff by the water. Lenore Hope is suspected of killing her entire family, like back in the 30s, 40s, but I think this book is based in the 80s. So we're fast forwarding like 40-50 years. She needs help. She is kind of in stage life, going through some things. And when Kit has to actually move into the house to help Lenora has a lot of things going on. She thinks she is hearing or seeing Lenora kind of walk about. The mind-bogglingness of this entire story is just like, wait, what? Hold on, let me flip back a couple of pages to make sure I read that right, or make sure I have my facts straight. This was a wild and crazy ride that was a full gut punch and gave me whiplash. So I really did enjoy this. A 5-star thriller for sure by Riley Sager. I highly recommend it, and this is definitely Destiny audiobook approved. So the next book we can go ahead and discuss is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This was actually the book that I DNF'd for the month. I tried to listen to the audiobook 4 times. I requested it 4 different times on Libby, and I could not get into it at all, y'all. Like, I've tried 4 times, not in June, but 4 times overall since I've had this book for the last year, and I just could not get into this book. I've tried to read it, listen to the audiobook, read and listen to the audiobook to give myself an immersive experience, and I just could not get into this storyline. The audiobook, I don't like the narrator's voice for Casey. Absolutely hate that narrator's voice, so I need to make note of who that narrator is because I will probably never listen. I just didn't like her voice for Casey. I didn't like this storyline. I could not get into it. I only got till about halfway through the book, and then I was like, stop torturing yourself, just DNF the book. So I did DNF it. A lot of people said that they actually fully enjoyed this book. They absolutely loved this book. This was a miss for me. But again, I have all of Riley Sager's books. I love Riley Sager. This was a no for me. I'm not going to try again. I will probably unhaul this book at some point in time, but this was my 1 DNF for the month. The next thriller that I did read was The Quiet Tenant by Clémence Michelon. Absolutely was very, very excited, y'all, to read this book. This book is highly hyped up on Book Talk and BookTube. Everybody talks about The Quiet Tenant. This book fell flat for me. I gave it a 3-star rating, unfortunately. Maybe in the fall I may revisit it, but I actually tried to read this book on 2 different occasions. I did enjoy the audiobook version of it. So the audiobook, I will say, from the narrator, it was a 4-star read, but from the storyline alone, not thinking about the audiobook and the storyline alone, I'm going to say that this is a 3-star read for me. This book is following a kidnapper. He has a girl in his shed, and he's basically had her in his shed for 5 years. Something happens to his family. He ends up having to move her into the house, and she's trying to figure out, how do I escape this person? And I'm like, how have you been kidnapped for 5 years? And I'm like, what? So it's like dual timelines, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple of POVs. But it was interesting. It's more of a mystery than a thriller to me. I just wanted it to be over. I think for me, this book is overhyped. And I hate having to say that, but I did rate it 3 stars. Do I recommend it? If you like mystery books that are a little bit kind of slow and that piques your interest, because there were some interesting things, because I'm like, how are you kidnapped for this long? And so it kept me with the story, but it just fell flat in terms of like it being thrilling. And of course, thrillers and mysteries are totally different. This was marketed as a thriller. This was definitely a mystery. Again, reading is fully subjective, but that's what I think. But yes, do I recommend it? Yes, go out there and read it. It's giving fall vibes for sure. So I may revisit it later on in the year. So the next book that I did read for the month of June, this is in the mystery category. This is The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I actually had the ARC for this book. I wanted to actually go and pick this book up because look at these sprayed edges. Absolutely beautiful, like a burned book. Like, girl, yes, get into sprayed edges. Beautiful sprayed edges at that. So that's beautiful work. So I was very intrigued about the book. But anyways, when I had the ARC, getting into this book was a wild ride for sure. It was a mystery for sure. It was very slow. It was a slow burn for about 30% of the book. And then after that, it was pure whiplash from there. It was like, hold on, girl, we're about to take you on this ride. A wild ride it was. I absolutely adored this book and this writing. This is actually my first Julie Clark book, and so I do have a couple of others of her books on my shelf that I am going to now. I really want to kind of get to. This is not so much a thriller. It's definitely a mystery whodunit. So in this book, we're following our female main character. She gets a call from an author's agent saying, hey, we would like you to be the ghostwriter of this individual for this author, and he's big, like Stephen King big in writing horrors and thrillers. He's having some medical issues. We want you to ghostwrite what happened the night of his sister and his brother being killed. We want you to come in, you live with him, you kind of get the information to finish out this memoir, if you will, because now he wants to come clean about what happened that awful night that his brother and his sister were killed. He was kind of the suspect for a little bit of this, so she goes to this hometown, she moves in with him, and she becomes the ghostwriter, and she kind of has to figure out, put things together of what's going on. And the crazy thing, it's in the book cover, y'all, so I'll go ahead and tell you, it's her dad. Like, the author is her dad, and she is estranged from him, so she has to kind of work through that as well. She's like, she thinks her dad did it. It's a wild ride to get to what really happened to the brother and the sister, and it's dual POV, dual timelines. So we're kind of going back and forth. We're listening to what people in the town say, newspaper clippings. We're kind of finding things. She's finding a lot out about her dad, and she's not close with either of her parents, so she's trying to figure out trying to connect the dots. So it was very slow at the end, like I said, for the first 30% of the book, but it wasn't boring at all. Like, please don't get me wrong, when I say books are slow, that does not mean they're boring for me, but it was just slow to kind of get started because there was a lot of information coming at you. But once you kind of sift through everything, it's like, whew, we are off to the races. It was absolutely phenomenal. I love this book. This was a 5-star read for me, and I highly recommend it. So the last book that I did read was Cross My Heart by Megan Collins. This was the last book that I read in the month of June, and oh my goodness, y'all, this was a wild ride for sure. This was a book that in the middle of the book, I had to stop listening to it. Audiobook approved for sure. I had to immediately make a TikTok video, and I tagged Megan Collins, and I was like, girl, if this book is not delivering, because right now I'm halfway through, it's delivering. And this book had me so shocked that I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is also a mystery whodunit. In this book, we're following Rosie. She is trying to find the love of her life, and she does not go about it the right way, y'all. So she starts to message her heart donor. She just recently received a heart transplant about a year ago. It's the anniversary. She reaches out to the heart donor's husband, and she's like, hey, I know in order for me to live, your wife had to die. And they kind of go back and forth. It's like an anonymous thing that they can kind of talk to each other. And so they go back and forth all of the information that he's giving her, she kind of works it out that it's a famous author that she is absolutely in love with. And we go down this whole stalking and meddling thing, and Rosie is just dumb as hell, but it made for a good story. So she's an extremely unreliable character, but I absolutely love this book. This was like a true gut punch. Like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. I absolutely loved the audiobook. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love this book. This was a 5-star read for me. I did work out the plot, part of the plot. That's that, but that doesn't mean that you will. But this was such a fun, loving mystery and a wild ride. It was just fun. It was just overall fun. Go listen to the audiobook. Go read this book. It's absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend it. It was a great way to finish off June. So the next few books that we're going to talk through, they are ebook, and I'm just going to briefly just go through those. So the first ebook that I read was Blind Devotion by Brianna Cole. This was probably like 100 pages, so it's a Black author, very short read. It's like a novella, and I did receive the ARC. Absolutely adored this book. This book is we're following our main female character, and she's working in like a club, or it's like either a bar or a club, and she meets this pastor. She finds out that she is falling head over heels for this pastor. He is very narcissistic, and she goes lengths to be with this man, and I do mean extreme lengths. That's why it's called Blind Devotion, y'all. Like, it was absolutely a one sitting read, not because it was a short book, but it was like, I need to finish up with this and figure out what is going to happen. It was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely enjoyed the book. I highly recommend. Please go out and read this book. So the next ebook that I did read was The Beautiful Maddening by Shay Earnshaw. This book is largely about a family curse of a family. Whenever tulips bloom, I think in the spring, everyone in the town or everyone around them kind of falls in love with them. This is a YA fantasy book, and I will say that this felt a little bit too YA for me when I received this ARC. However, it was enjoyable. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it for like middle grade to young adult to read this book. One of the children within this family, she's older obviously, but she kind of wants to leave town. She doesn't want to kind of deal with the family curse and people always being, in love with them all of the time. So she ends up coming across a guy in town who actually has she has zero effect on him while the tulips are blooming, and she's really curious, like, why are you not falling for me? So of course things kind of happen there. Like I said, it was a little bit too YA for me, and so it was a little bit of I can't relate as much. But it was an enjoyable and beautiful story, and I do recommend it. So the next book I read was The 5 Engagement Rings of Sybil Rain. It's by Hannah Brown, and this book, beautiful cover. I received audiobook art for this. The audiobook was absolutely phenomenal. It was a 4 out of 5 star read. The audiobook was a 4 out of 5, and the storyline was a 4 out of 5. So overall, the entire book and audiobook, 4 out of 5. Absolutely phenomenal. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a rom-com. It's actually book 2 of The Mistakes We Never Made by Hannah Brown. I have not read this book yet, and I didn't realize that was kind of book 2. I think they're interconnected standalones because I did not feel lost from reading the second book and enjoyed it, but I am going to go back and read this first book, but it's based upon some characters out of this book. From this book, we're following Sybil Rain. Of course, it's 5 engagement rings. We're at a year of her kind of deciding that she's not going to get married at the time of the altar, and I can't remember if she left him at the altar altar, or he left her at the altar, or they decided to mutually leave each other. I can't remember, but anyways, they kind of broke up. It was kind of devastating. And then she decides, well, her friends kind of have this intervention, and they're like, hey, you need to get over this man. It's been a year. Go take this honeymoon that you were supposed to originally go on. Just go ahead and go before kind of time runs out. So she goes to Hawaii and has really big vacation. Her ex-fiance pops up, and other exes kind of pop up, and it's just a huge rom-com of things being close proximity on an island, and it's giving very summer vibes. It was a really good summer read. I highly recommend it. Absolutely love the narrators. So, and I really do love the narrator who brought Silver Rain's voice and just to life. So I really did enjoy it. It was a really good rom-com, and I love a good rom-com, especially one during the summertime. A really good summer read. Go out and read it for sure, and highly recommend it. 4 out of 5-star read. The next book that I did read was Coming in Hot by Josie Juniper. This was my first like F1 racing type romance book. The spice in this book is probably a 4. It's high spice. It's my first Josie Juniper book. I absolutely adored this book. So we're following our female main character. She ends up having this one night stand with this guy. She ends up finding out that he's actually one of the F1 racing team's owners, and she kind of falls for him. She is also kind of enthralled with him because he is older. I love the spice. I love the story. It is a one night stand trope, which I don't mind as long as it's done right. And I feel like in this story, it was very done right. I did have the audiobook arc of this, and the audiobook is absolutely phenomenal. So I definitely recommend if you're looking for something with a lot of spice, romance. He's an older person. He kind of falls first, and it's F1 racing romance, but highly recommend. The next ebook that I read was Don't Open Your Eyes by Liv Constantine. This is my first Liv Constantine book, and of course, as you know, Liv Constantine, I think they are sisters writing as one person, writing as Liv Constantine. This book, I did have the arc of this. Absolutely a 4-star read. I highly recommend it. This was more on the lines of a mystery as well. So for this particular book, we are following our main character when she goes to sleep and she kind of wakes up. All of her dreams are pretty much coming to fruition. Things are happening around her life, and she's able to kind of predict what things are going to happen. She has a lot of secrets. Her child, she's one of those parent who's there but absent, if that makes sense. So we have a POV of her daughter, a POV of her, and then we also have dual timeline as well. It was very well written of all of these family secrets where they're kind of enthralled, and the mom kind of being able to guess what's going on, and we have the daughter trying to figure out why her parents don't want to allow her to get a DNA sample, and she's talking to this person online, and we later find out a lot of things about this person online has a different hidden agenda that's kind of tied back to the parents. And it's just a huge story of just like deception and narcissism. And it was a very quick read. I flew through the book. I highly recommend it. I really want to listen to it on audiobook to kind of see how that story kind of unfolds through an audiobook and how the narrators would bring this story to life. But I highly recommend the book. 4-star read. Great quick read if you're looking for that great quick thriller / mystery. So the next book that I read was Smile for the Cameras by Miranda Smith. So this book was on the lines of like a thriller / a horror book. I highly recommend visiting this book during spooky season. I wish it came out during spooky season because I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. This was a 4-star read for me. So this book, we're following the cast and crew of a movie. I think it's called Grad Party or Graduation Party. It's kind of similar to like scream, if you will, because it did give those like 80s, 90s, like horror flick vibes. So we're following the cast and crew. They're needing to come back and do a reunion special for this horror series of the movies. And then also back in the day when they were filming the movies, some things kind of went totally wrong. People went missing on the set. So they're actually having to come back to this place, I think in like East Tennessee, I think like in Gatlinburg area, the mountains, you know, the Smoky Mountains they're revisiting. And so I really did enjoy that aspect of it because I've been in that area and lived in that area before. So that was something that really intrigued me. But the storyline is written in the book because it has a lot of different like movie scenes. It's revisiting the past, so we have some dual timelines, some dual POVs as well. And so when we try to figure out what happened in the past, there are some things that are going on the reunion special. There's some secrets out there, people falling in love, people hate each other, people are still missing, and we're trying to figure out what happened in the past, what's happening right now, and trying to put all of these stories together. So it was like a huge mystery thriller slash horror. This is definitely like slasher type feels. It gives me like Scream vibes, and I absolutely just adored it. And so I would revisit this one again in the fall because I just want to like read it in the dark, you know, be scared a little bit. I mean, it wasn't scary at all, but it was a storyline. It was a very fast-paced read. It was very interesting. And I do love how the story has some of the script as well, so you can kind of see things progressing throughout like the movie as well from back in the day when it revisits it. But it's very very informative how it was written, and it was different than what I'm normally used to, but I highly recommend this book. So the next ebook and audiobook that I read and listened to was I Should Have Worn a Curtain by Samira Alexander. This was a very different psychological thriller. So this was following Shayna. She is going to Overeaters Anonymous because she's struggling with bulimia, and it's more of along the lines of control and being vulnerable. And I really did enjoy the storyline. If you have struggled with bulimia or going to Overeaters Anonymous, or if any of like an eating disorder is a trigger for you of reading this type of story, this is probably a story that you will want to bypass. However, read your trigger warnings, proceed with caution with this book. But it was a different type of book of following Shayna's story of going through overeating, and I won't go into it too much because it was a very quick and short read. I do enjoy the audiobook. The audiobook had a lot of sound effects that I enjoy sound effects because I feel like that brings the world building and the storyline to life to me. So I really did enjoy it. It was a 4 out of 5 star read. I highly recommend it if you want something that's like a palate cleanser. I have not read part 2 yet of it, but I really want to read it. And I have read some of Samira Alexander's books. She is a Black author. She writes wonderful books, and her book that I think she came out with either last year or earlier this year called The Hostage, it is something that you absolutely must read during the fall for sure. It gives those really good Halloween vibes, and so absolutely great book. So I enjoyed The Hostage, of course, and you know, quick plug for that. And then I absolutely enjoyed I Should Have Worn a Curtain, and I do want to read part 2 to kind of see where Shayna's story goes. But like I said, quick read, quick palate cleanser, a very different psychological novella, psychological thriller novella. If that's something that you want to try to get into and kind of see if that's your jam, definitely start there. So those are all 23 books that I read for June. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought in the comments. And then also, if you plan on adding these to your TBR, please let me know. Until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.